My name is Katie Yates, and in this series, Fishing Game Changers on Tap, I'm learning about the Sebago Lake watershed and why keeping it forested helps keep our main traditions and communities thriving. I'll quickly recap. Sebago Lake is the deepest and second largest lake in the state of Maine. Sebago Lake is not only a multi-season destination for tourists and locals alike, it is also the primary water supply for the Portland Water District, and that serves about 20% of Maine's population. In last week's episode, I chatted with Jason Perkins, the brewmaster, I just love that title, at Allagash Brewing Company. He explained that clean water is critical for low-cost, high-quality beer, and that's great news for the craft breweries operating in Portland. Sebago Lake's water is so clean and consistent because of the forested land surrounding the lake. The watershed is currently around 85% forested and must remain at least 76% forested in order for the Portland Water District to avoid installing a multi-million-dollar filtration system. A group called Sebago Clean Waters is working together to conserve the watershed in order to keep it forested. More conserved land, of course, increases the likelihood that Portland's tap water can remain at its pristine levels. But more conserved land also means more public access to outdoor opportunities in the watershed. To learn more, I visited Loon Echo Land Trust in Bridgeton, Maine on a lovely late spring day last year. After a quick walk on one of the Land Trust's many beautiful trails, I sat down to chat with Matt Marcotte, the executive director of Loon Echo Land Trust.
So Loon Echo was founded in 1987, and so we are now in our 32nd year. Loon Echo was just a grassroots organization of concerned citizens who had a specific place in town that they thought should be protected, and that really has blossomed into a regional land trust that protects close to 7,000 acres of land. We own close to 5,000 acres and protect an additional 2,000 acres via conservation easement with private landowners. We continue to thrive and receive an incredible amount of support from our community, and we're looking forward to another 30 years of land conservation in the lake region.
Loon Echo offers miles of forested land enjoyed by hikers, birders, hunters, and anglers.
We use infrared trail counters at our most popular trailheads to get an estimate, really, of the number of people that use our lands. It's not a scientific process, but we can, within a reasonable doubt, guess that about 50,000 people are using our lands any given year. And those are people who are accessing our lands at designated trailheads. We know there are many thousands of other people, such as hunters and fishermen, who are accessing our land at other places. We welcome people to access our land wherever it's most convenient for them. We're confident with that 50,000 number as being likely a low end of the number of visitors that we're receiving on our lands every year.
Matt sees these visitors and conservation as part of future-proofing Maine's economy.
There are thousands of watersheds throughout our nation and throughout the world that have experienced the consequences of deforested watersheds. I'd say, the lowest potential consequence could mean, quite simply, that the water doesn't taste as good. The largest consequence could mean that Portland Water District, for instance, would have to build a multi-million-dollar, we estimate as much as $200 million filtration plant. Right now, the Portland Water District is able to receive a filtration waiver from the EPA because the water quality meets a certain standard. Without trees and forests in the watershed, it's likely that filtration waiver could be revoked, and then this large, expensive plant would have to be built. There's an economic case to protect water. It's to protect forest land. It's much cheaper to protect forest land than it is to build a water filtration plant and maintain that in perpetuity. We live in an area where tourism and outdoor recreation are increasingly larger sectors of economic growth and development, and we believe that conservation plays an essential role in the growth and the health of our local economies.
Loon Echo's effort to conserve land in the Sebago Lake watershed may only affect the water quality downstream in Portland, but communities in the watershed benefit from access to green spaces.
when we conserve land locally, we might not be protecting water for our local residents, but we're enabling them to continue to access traditional hunting lands, to find new places for their families. Many local bed and breakfast owners, restaurant owners now can tell their clients or their customers that there's another reason why they should come to Bridgeton to enjoy these lands, to get outside and then spend a night at a motel or go out and get a beer or a bite to eat afterwards. So we see conservation as having these myriad benefits across these economic spectrum in our communities. And especially in a time where a lot of rural communities in Maine are thinking about how they can future-proof their economies and how can we develop economies that are going to thrive in another 50 years. And I think outdoor recreation and tourism is certainly one way to do that, and land conservation is an important part of that.
Loon Echo has benefited from partnerships with local businesses. We know breweries are helping conserve the watershed, but they also donate time and resources to help make Loon Echo's events a success.
Allagash donates beer for many of our events. We have our largest annual fundraiser coming up in September called the Loon Echo Trek, which is a hike over Pleasant Mountain, which is probably our most popular preserve. It's iconic in southern Maine, and at the end of the hike you get beer, and it's Allagash beer. Nice. And what's really cool about that is that every beer that you drank has come from the watershed. So when you're hiking on Pleasant Mountain, or if you're out hunting on any of the lands in the watershed and you go enjoy a beer brewed in Portland, you're literally drinking beer that came from the land that you were just enjoying.
Matt sees craftiness and outdoorsy lifestyles as part of Maine's unique identity.
I think people look at Maine as a brand and say that, has this identity of being this really pristine, natural place that produces high quality products. It makes sense when you think about the overall Maine brand to be able to say, we here in Maine, we produce the highest quality craft beer. And that connection to the land, I think, is an essential part of being able to market that beer as well. You look at Allagash Brewing, for instance, their namesake is an incredibly pristine wilderness river that has been protected for over 50 years. I think that Maine brand of incredible access to the outdoors and pristine wilderness and forest land is part of the reason why we've seen this explosion in craft beer.
Jason Perkins in last week's episode called it Maine's DNA. Speaking of Maine's DNA, Matt is originally from Connecticut, but his Maine roots run deep. He comes from a long line of Mainers, which helps him keep in mind the past while looking towards the future.
I'm from central Connecticut, okay. But my family, I'm actually 2 generations removed from a long line of Mainers. My maternal great-grandfather was the mayor of Portland at the turn of the 20th century. I'm going to mess this up, but his brother was also on the Maine State Supreme Court. My stepfather can trace his family roots here in Bridgeton back to the Revolutionary War. And so, yeah, I'm not a true Mainer, but I do feel like it's in my blood. I made the decision quickly after college to move to Maine. Why would I want to live anywhere else? And it's the lifestyle that we enjoy here, I think, is second to none. And I'm proud to be able to say that the work that I do on a daily basis, I think, is helping to preserve the traditions that many Mainers enjoy. And I certainly wouldn't be living here if it wasn't for all of the work that's been done in the decades prior to me even being alive of protecting our natural places here in Maine.
Although Matt's job is all about conservation and outdoor recreation, he doesn't necessarily have the time to do all the outdoor activities he's working to help others enjoy. This is a pretty common theme. Time is often considered one of our biggest barriers to outdoor recreation.
I don't get to spend as much time outside as I'd like to anymore, but I love bass fishing. We have incredible bass fishing in the lake region. I don't hunt, although I'm certainly interested in hunting. I love the idea of bird hunting, especially. I spent a lot of time working when I was with the Nature Conservancy and with the Maine Natural Areas program in northern Maine, and I was always jealous because I felt like the bird hunters that I'd see were always having the best time. So I keep saying every year that I'm going to sign up for a hunter safety course, and then time just gets away. I would really like to get into the sport. I really think of hunting as just another excuse to get outside. And I have a good buddy of mine who's a big duck hunter. You know, he's constantly in season posting pictures of himself, like, you know, early in the morning, steam rising off the water. And I'm just like, man, I just want to just go hang out. I don't even need to have a firearm. I think I just want to sit there and be there because it just looks incredible. I mean, I think that's why a lot of people hunt too. I talk to hunters all the time. You know, we have a board member who's been deer hunting in Maine for 30 years, and I don't think he's ever actually harvested a deer. But the reason why he hunts is because it's just another excuse to get outside, and to get outside in that time of year. It's you know, it's beautiful in the late fall, in the early winter, and you know, I think that's why most people hunt. For me, hunting wouldn't necessarily be about harvesting an animal. It would just be to get outside, to go places that I might not otherwise go, get off the trail, get into the woods.
Hunters, anglers, boaters, ATV riders, and snowmobilers are all contributors to conservation and wildlife management here in Maine.
We have many hunters and anglers who support Loon Echo. We consider them to be excellent partners. I think hunters, anglers, snowmobilers, ATVers, you know, they certainly share the conservation values that we have here at Loon Echo. I think people who hunt, people who fish recognize that without access to land, you can't hunt and you can't fish. So we think of hunters, fishers, anglers, etc., as, you know, integral partners to the work that we do.
Matt, waxing poetic about hunting, has me itching to visit a friend of mine who hunts, fishes, and forages in the very watershed Matt works to protect. He's very vocal about the connection between outdoor recreation and conservation, and tries his best to inspire people like Matt to finally take the time to try those outdoor pursuits. Daniel Vitalis is the creator and host of the popular Rewild Yourself podcast and the new culinary adventure series Wild Fed. Dan takes the field to fork movement to a whole new level. Before heading back to Portland to continue my brew tour, I decide to hang out in the forested watershed a bit longer. In next week's episode, I talk with Dan about his connection to the Sebago Lake watershed. To learn more about this podcast, visit mefishwildlife.com/changers. To stay up to date on current episodes, hit subscribe on your favorite listening app.